Here we are again, another year, another €80 million for the horse and greyhound racing industry. And again, the Minister, in his speech, as far as I can tell, makes no reference whatsoever to the issues of animal welfare and issues of animal rights that are concerned here. How long can you continue to ignore the horrific conditions faced by greyhounds in this industry? Of course, I know people who own greyhounds, who love their dogs, who treat them well, etc. But I also know that it's an industry that is intimately connected to gambling and where the profit motive is extremely strong, and that unfortunately has an extremely distorting impact and results in cruel practices towards dogs. I mean, just in the last week, you have two very important stories in the media which illustrate the point. The first, which is in the papers today, in relation to the issue of doping, where another two greyhounds test positive for traces of cocaine. Every time this happens, the IGB comes out and says, no, we have a testing regime, a doping regime in place. We only think it's 1% of dogs. But all the evidence suggests that it's the tip of the iceberg. Pharmacology experts, vets, others in the industry treat the official figures with serious scepticism. Their own Morris report pointed out severe problems with the anti-doping measures in the greyhound industry, and it found that the National Greyhound Laboratory does not have facilities to test many of the drugs used to dope greyhounds. So I'd ask the Minister, when will the IGB be obliged to fund adequate levels of testing for substances in greyhounds? The other issue I'd raise is even more serious, which is the issue of export of dogs to countries which have very low or effectively zero animal welfare regulations, animal welfare legislation. I note that the Minister, in an answer to Deputy Daly on the 28th of March, said Borden Gan advises all owners involved in the export of greyhounds to only export to destinations that provide the expected levels of greyhound care and management as defined in the IGB's Code of Practice for the Welfare of Greyhounds. I strongly endorse this view. I mean, that's all very well, but the reality is greyhounds are being exported to China, to Pakistan, to countries where really cruel treatment of dogs is absolutely rife. And that's happening. There's a story just a week ago in the British press, a woman called Kerry Elmen, who has been involved in the Birmingham organisation, and has rescued dogs which are related to dogs that were exported from Ireland, from China, and the conditions that are reported are absolutely horrific. Video footage from contacts across China, it's a quote from the Daily Mirror, give a horrific insight into how racing greyhounds are treated in the absence of animal protection laws. One harrowing clip shows a greyhound being boiled alive in a cauldron. In other clips, greyhounds yelp as they are strung up with cables and hung from a line to be weighed. Other greyhounds, reduced to skin and bone, are confined in a tiny cage. Last week, Kerry spent 5 days in Beijing to retrieve the dogs her contacts intercepted. And Kerry has been in touch with me and has provided me with an extensive list of dogs that have been exported from Ireland. The dogs are on a website in China with their original owners listed, and they came directly from Ireland. There's a list of 22 dogs here, owned by the Cliffords, by Jason Walsh, Stephen McNamara, Gerard Dowling, Stephen Dunphy. The list goes on, and I can provide it to the Minister. But these are directly exported greyhounds from Ireland to China, and it seems likely that many of these involved in the exports are also involved in exports to Pakistan and elsewhere. And so the question is, what's going to be done about this? I mean, it's all very well for the IGB to say, no, we don't want dogs to be treated in this way, but that's happening now. So when is the code going to be put on a statutory footing? When will the government stop export to states like Macau, China, Pakistan and all those with no or inadequate animal welfare laws? And when will there be an investigation as to where Irish-bred greyhounds end up?